they're still pushed back. Even I've been gaslit, you know, saying, oh, did you not know it was a joke in front of their keyboard? Did you not know it was a joke? Didn't you know it was a joke? Or words to that effect. Hey guys, I'm Chez and this is Chez M0i. Welcome back to my channel on Friday, 23rd of December. And today happens to be my sister's birthday, so I want to wish her a happy birthday. I don't think she watches my videos, but just in case she does, happy birthday to my sister. She's already collected her gifts, so these, I'll just show you what I bought her. And I know she'll be happy with these. So here we are at the end of a very strange week. If you'd said to me a fortnight ago that I would be making a video about Jeremy Clarkson and Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, I'd be like, how? In what context? In what universe? But that's exactly what happened 5 days ago. If you haven't had the opportunity to watch that video, I'll link it down below and I'll link it above my head this way, I think. Could be that way. Like I said, this week's been a strange week, and I thought all of this would have died down. This story has gone viral. What Jeremy Clarkson wrote in The Sun. It's caught the attention of many US YouTubers and they've made their commentaries, etc. And it's not a surprise that they're still pushed back. Even I've been gaslit, saying, oh, did you not know it was a joke in front of their keyboard? Did you not know it was a joke? Didn't you know it was a joke? Or words to that effect. If you watched my video on how to deal with negative messages, I'll link that somewhere around here, because I don't have to respond to that. I don't have time to argue with you. I have my opinion. You can't respect that. That's not my issue. That's not my business. You've wasted energy. As this story has seemed to have gathered momentum, even more than I expected, I thought it would have died down by now. I have had time to explore this a bit further, because again, I've made observations and I just want to document them in the context of what I spoke about 5 days ago. So I think there's about seven observations that I made, and I'm going to try to keep this video as brief as possible, but it may be longer than I would like. So before I get into this video, do me a favour and hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to see more new videos. It helps the algorithms apparently. Not that I keep track of numbers, but your support would be greatly appreciated. Okay, so my first observation, as I alluded to before, certain people, you know, you don't have to be Einstein to guess which type of people I'm referring to. They're still trying to justify this article as humour. What I would suggest humbly is that those same people direct that energy towards Jeremy Clarkson's daughter Emily. She has condemned him, as I said in my previous video. Everybody knows that now. Direct that energy to her. Tell her that that was humour. She has known this man all her life. They're not estranged. She knows what his sense of humour is like. She did not find that funny. Neither did Carol Vorderman, neither did Matthew Wright, neither did many, many other public figures in this country. They may not necessarily like Meghan and Harry, but that article was a step too far. You know, I'm not going to go over what he said. You can see all of that in the video that I did on Monday. The following day, Tuesday, I was driving? Or did I see it on YouTube? Okay, so LBC is a radio station, national radio station in the UK. And it was an afternoon show hosted by Sheila Doherty. She had a lady ring in distressed, and it happened to be Caroline Flack's mother. And I mentioned Caroline Flack in my previous video. It was with good reason she was distressed, because and she said it herself, what Jeremy Clarkson did in this article is what was done to her daughter, and that drove her to take her own life. Mrs. Flack stated that even as recently as a few months ago, publications were still spreading lies about her daughter with regards to her finances, and also that the blood that was found in the property, which the media had splashed all over social media, and they had images of blood all over the room, and they said it was her partner's blood. Her mother said it was actually Caroline's blood. So lies upon lies upon lies. Caroline Flack ended her life on the 8th of February 2020. It is now 2022. This happened a few months ago, Mrs. Flack said, still reporting lies about her daughter. And she called the editor of the publication, I can't remember which one, and she called them out on it, and they had to apologise. I don't know whether it was a public apology, but they apologised to her privately, at least from what I understand. So it continues. Another observation that I made is that the accusations being levelled at Meghan for bringing shame and disgrace to the royal family have kind of dissipated with regard to Prince Andrew, who actually brought shame and disgrace to the royal family. And my theory is that the reason it's been swept under the carpet is because Prince Andrew represents a demographic which have a sense of entitlement. They all look alike, they all sound alike, they all think alike, their attitudes are the same. I talked about that in my previous video, and I can put a rogues gallery right now across the screen of what I mean. You can see the similarities. These people have a sense of entitlement. And that what that indicates to me is that you can commit the most heinous crime, but because you're part of the demographic that have set these structures and systems in place, you feel that you can say and do things without consequence. And that's why I believe Prince Andrew has he hasn't really faced any backlash in comparison to Harry and Meghan. And I just find it interesting. I find it really, really interesting. You could be associated with a paedophile, whether Epstein was or not, I don't know. But even by association, you could be deemed guilty. But because he settled with this young woman, Victoria Dufresne, I think it was, he thinks he's managed to escape. So much so that he tried to worm his way back into the royal family. And King Charles isn't having it. He's given what was Andrew's role with regard to military, the head of some military organisation. I'm not sure what it is because I'm not associated with the military. He's given that to his wife, Camilla. So they don't want him back in the family, but they're just going to quietly tuck him away, you know, and he can tend to his flowers, whatever he wants to do. But they don't want him in public, but they will not punish him. He will not be punished by the British media. He won't. You know, the extent of the punishment was that interview that he gave, and he may have got a scolding from his mum, but ultimately that's money's been thrown at the situation, and as far as they're concerned, it's been resolved. And it says something about us as a society when we can condone the actions of paedophilic behaviour, let's just say that. That's acceptable. But you can't explain what Harry and Meghan have done. You can't explain what Meghan has done. You just, you know, you feel the need to vilify her. But I'm going to get to that because I think I know why. I think I know why this has happened. But I will get to that. Another observation that I made is that if Harry and Meghan hate the royal family so much, why are they close to their cousins, Eugenie and Beatrice, who happen to be the daughters of Prince Andrew? What that says to me is that they judge people on their individual merits. They don't judge a whole group of people based on the family that they come from. They are close to these two young ladies. They don't hate the royal family. But again, the British media would have you believe that they've trashed the royal family. They've done this, they've done that, XYZ. Another observation that I made. Jeremy Clarkson had previously been sacked from the BBC for physically assaulting his producer. I think he punched him and he was immediately sacked. That was a physical assault. He has assaulted Meghan in the press. It's documented what he thinks. And again, this reference to Game of Thrones, you know, please don't do that, because not everybody has watched Game of Thrones. And even for the people who have watched it, that article is still unjustifiable. You can't cover that up with humour or trying to pass it off as, you know, it's a reference. You compared Meghan to Rose West, the serial killer, who with her husband Fred West killed these young women and buried them in the property that they lived. How is that? How does that even make sense? How does that even make sense? Jeremy Clarkson had written that article, if I recollect the timings correctly, 2 days after the release of the last 3 episodes of Harry and Meghan's documentary. So what he did effectively was prove their point, their claim that the media will write negative articles about them continually. He literally proved their point. You know, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to see these things, but people will refuse to see them for no other reason than it's something to be offended by. It's something to be offended about. Can you imagine if someone, a fellow journalist, had written the same type of thing about Jeremy Clarkson's daughter? Are you telling me that he would just say, oh, that's a joke, and just pass it off as humour for his own daughter? I struggle to believe that he would do that. He would just sit back and not come to his daughter's defence. I struggle with that. Another observation I made was with regard to finances. When it was revealed that taxpayer funds were used to refurbish Frogmore Cottage in Windsor, where Meghan and Harry were living before they left, everyone was in uproar. It was an outrage. How dare they? When they left, they paid that money back. They said they wanted to be financially independent. They said they did not want to use taxpayer funds to fund their lifestyle when they were leaving. You know, it wouldn't be ethical to do that anyway. So they said they wanted to be financially independent. That does not mean that they will be going to work in Walmart or CVS or McDonald's when they go to America. These guys are millionaires. Meghan was a multi-millionaire before she met Harry. And when I say multi, it's more than one. I think it was at least 5 million she came to the relationship with. She had her own money, despite people saying that she's a gold digger and she's a social climber. She already had her own money. They are financially independent. They have their own production company. I think it's called Archwell. They have deals with Netflix and Spotify, and their documentary is #1. Meghan's podcast is #1. I don't know what positions they hold as I'm speaking to you today, but that, you know, they had high viewing and audio figures. So, you know, they are financially independent. Everyone has a problem with it. And the reason everyone has a problem with it is because they're saying that they shouldn't profit off their royal titles. If you watch the documentary, Harry said that when they were trying to figure out this way of working, you know, moving forward, he said that they were ready to relinquish their titles. He said that. So clearly titles are not important to them. Meghan had no title before she met Harry. So, you know, she's not going to miss anything. Harry will always be a prince. You can't take that away from him. You can't take it away from him. He was born into that. And even if you were able to take that away, these two are one of the most high profile couples on the planet. They want you to refer to them as Harry and Meghan. Just to say that everybody knows who they are. So titles don't matter. They're not trying to profit off their royal titles. They're, you know, what do you want Harry to do? There's nothing for him to renounce because he's not next in line to the throne. Sticking with the finances, I find it interesting that Tyler Perry, who I've known about for a very long time, because I used to watch his plays and then his TV series that he used to, you know, produce and release. I find it interesting that an African-American billionaire is the only person that could offer safe haven, refuge to a Prince of England and his wife. They had nowhere to go. They had nowhere to go. And even the 15 million that Harry left with, that was his inheritance from his mother, that would not be enough to set them up. He said that in the Oprah interview. So I find it interesting that it had to be an African-American billionaire that had to help a Prince of England. To me, it's not funny because the situation's not funny, but it's just irony. This whole saga is full of irony. And I clocked that. I was like, wow, look at this. Tyler Perry, from a poor background, ends up helping a Prince of England. Simply because Harry's own family were unwilling to assist him because they've got to protect the image of the institution. Everything comes second to the institution. And that's what we have to understand. That's what we have to understand. Let me just go back to the finance thing. So I said to you that Harry and Meghan paid back the £2.4 million, I think it was, with regard to Frogmore Cottage. Everybody was satisfied. When Windsor Castle burned down in the 90s and the Queen wanted the public to foot the bill, that was outrage. That was like, no, how dare you? These are the same people that say you must have respect for the Queen. Yeah. They said, no, we're not doing that. How dare you? You pay for it. Up until that time, many people didn't know that she was not paying tax. As it stands right now, inheritance tax doesn't apply to the royal family. So for all of you that have assets worth over £325,000, because I think that's still the threshold, someone correct me if I'm wrong, anything above £325,000 when you die, if you don't have your assets in trust, that above that threshold is subject to 40% inheritance tax. And to add insult to injury, if any assets are not, if a will hasn't been drawn up and no next of kin can claim these assets after someone dies, those assets go directly to the Crown. And, you know, still British society is okay with that. My knowledge is a bit rusty because I was involved in, you know, estate planning for a while, and it is a bit rusty. So again, can someone correct me if I'm wrong? Just clarify that for me. So we come to the Queen's funeral now, and I think that costs, from what I remember, 1.8 billion to have the Queen's casket travel all the way through the UK from Scotland, and all the pomp and circumstance surrounding that, all the rituals, all the military spectacle, all of that, 1.8 billion pounds. Do you think that came from the royal purse? No, that came from the taxpayer, but no one says anything. Well, you want to talk about the little 2.4 million for Harry and Meghan, which they paid back. That 1.8 billion for the Queen's funeral, we're not going to get that back. We're not going to get that back. But no one says anything. Again, I just find these things so interesting. No one questions these things, because if you question these things, it's to disrespect the royal family, and we're not allowed to disrespect the royal family. I would never intentionally disrespect the royal family, but when I see things that don't make sense, I have a brain. I use more than 10% of my brain. I know that, because on average, you know, studies show that on average, the majority of people on the planet only use 10% of their brain capacity. So that's why when you have an incident, when you have something like the pandemic, over the course of 2 years, you're being told the same information over and 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 over again. Brainwashing, 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 because they need you to be, they need certain information to be embedded in your brain so you don't question it. Everybody follows everyone like sheep. You're not allowed to question. So when they're telling you they spent 1.8 billion on, you know, the funeral for the Queen, all the preparation, etc., and you've got queues of 5-10 miles snaking around London. They actually called it the snake, I think. Everyone's okay with that. And what I'd noticed with all of that is that, let me say their names, Holly Willoughby and Philip Schofield. Before the Queen's funeral, they were, you know, the type of presenters that anytime Harry and Meghan's name is called, they would, you know, they wouldn't be objective. They'd be like Lorraine Kelly. It's like, you already know what they're going to say. They're not going to be, they're not going to have anything positive to say. What I noticed, that whole incident of them queue jumping, they were accused of queue jumping. The way that they got slaughtered, Philip Schofield closed down his Instagram. Holly Willoughby had her Instagram open because she was posting up until, you know, she was posting around that time, and then she stopped posting, but she still had her account open. She posted a couple of pictures of her kids laying down pieces of artwork in one of the parks. I think it was Hyde Park, and people were slaughtering her kids. They were saying, no, you know, we don't care about your kids, you know. I think there was even some sort of death threat leveled at her kids, but I'm not 100% sure. But what I saw was horrific. They slaughtered this woman on Instagram. And I was like, look at this. Look at this. You know, because as far as the British public were concerned, Holly and Philip disrespected the Queen because they supposedly jumped the queue, while David Beckham was stood in the queue for hours and hours. And they held him up as a high standard to attain. That whole episode, the world was watching. It was just like, you guys are mad. You guys are mad in Britain. I was watching one YouTuber who put out a video. She does lifestyle content, and she said she watched the Harry and Meghan documentary, and she said, like I did, that having watched that made her like them even more. But she also said that Just because she likes Harry and Meghan, that doesn't stop her liking William and Kate, because there's no reason for her to like one and dislike another. And that's true. I agree with that 100%. But you had people in the comments saying, right, I was with you until you mentioned Harry and you said what you said about Harry and Meghan. I'm unsubscribing. And I was like, wow, look at this. You can't even express an opinion, because people will now threaten your livelihood. They will cancel you if you express a certain opinion. And this is why, although I will never be in agreement with what Jeremy Clarkson did, I'm not going to stand in the way of someone's income. What I will not do, however, is continue to watch the program that he presents, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. That used to be one of my favorite programs. And when Chris Tarrant had to leave, it wasn't the same. But it's like, okay, Jeremy Clarkson is doing it. I don't really, I'm not really fond of him. I don't know him. I would have preferred to Chris Tarrant to continue to do it, but obviously he couldn't. So I watched it for a while, and as of what happened earlier this week, I said I will never watch that show again as long as he's presenting it. Me not watching it is not going to affect his pocket. It's not. I'm not out to destroy this man's livelihood. There are other people that will do that, but I choose not to continue to watch that show. Anything that he's involved in, I will not support. And that's just me as one individual. He doesn't care what I think. He doesn't know me. Couldn't care less. But for me, I'm not going to sit here, do this video and then go back to watch that show that I love. I don't love. You know what I mean. The whole purpose of the British media, going back to Philip and Holly, and specifically speaking about Harry and Meghan, the whole purpose of the British media is to divide, because division means drama, and drama sells newspapers. I liken the British media to the hand. You just see the hand that takes a piece of meat from the side, puts it into a body of water full of piranha fish, drops that meat, which represents the propaganda that they will push. But the piranha represents a British society, the public, and the public devour it. It's a feeding frenzy. They'll devour it and devour it and devour it and devour it and devour it. It's not good for them. There could be poison on that meat, but they will devour it. They will continue. They will feed off that, because that's what satisfies them. It was the same thing with Diana when she died, and I remember that very well. I was 27 when that happened. I just turned 27. And I'm not gonna lie, I was in tears, because that thing shocked me. It shocked me, because 1 minute all she had was a broken collarbone, I think it was, and then a few hours later she was gone. And everyone blamed the British media, and they said this can never happen again. Lessons have to be learned. Lessons have not been learned. Lessons have not been learned. And this is what Harry keeps talking about. I don't want what happened to my mother. I don't want to happen to my wife and my children. But I say you guys, the British media will not listen. They will not stop until something like that happens again. They won't. So now, with regard to my point as to what I believe Meghan has done wrong, has done to Jeremy Clarkson et al. I would put it to you that her sacrifice, as far as the British public is concerned, her sacrifice hasn't been big enough. What do I mean by that? Okay, so she gave up her life as an actress in Toronto / US to come and be with Harry. Harry says that in the documentary. She wanted to stay in the royal family. He says that. She wasn't the one that wanted to leave. He wanted to leave. And I knew that because of previous interviews that he'd done when he was going to Lesotho, and Botswana, I think was the other one. And he said he wanted to leave. He wanted to be free. He wanted to leave. This is way before Meghan came along. But again, the British public will not refuse that, because it doesn't satisfy them. It doesn't make them feel good to hear that, even though this man has told you with his own mouth. That's why they branded that whole episode Megxit, because Harry's it doesn't sound good. It doesn't sound good. Okay. When I say she did not, as far as people are concerned, her sacrifice wasn't big enough. Let me take you back to the Duke of Edinburgh. Okay. I was doing some research, and I'm going to insert some screenshots here, which will, you know, I've pre-recorded the commentary. So I'll just let you listen to those now. This excerpt is taken from the Express newspaper website. Prince Philip endured serious backlash behind palace walls due to his family's connections to Germany, despite his own attempts to distance himself following World War II, according to biographers. This is taken from an internet search where people also ask, what was Prince Philip's surname before Mountbatten? One of the sacrifices Prince Philip had to make before he married Queen Elizabeth II in 1947 was changing his surname amid concerns over his foreign roots. He changed his family name from the German Schleswig-Holstein, Sonderburg, Luxembourg to Mountbatten, an anglicised version of his mother's surname, Battenberg. This article is taken from the World Socialist website. When he first set out to court Elizabeth, the British monarchy regarded him as beneath them, with his mixed heritage, rough character and lack of titles. Royal reactions to his request to marry Elizabeth showed that social layer's backwardness. The Queen Mother called him the Hun. Her brother dismissed him as a German. Nevertheless, the marriage was agreed. Renouncing his Greek title, he took British nationality and adopted the anglicised name Mountbatten. On his wedding day in 1947, he was made Duke of Edinburgh. Philip took leave from the Navy in 1951 to support Elizabeth, who was taking over duties from her ailing father. This article is taken from Reader's Digest. Before he was the Duke of Edinburgh, the young Philip was Prince of Greece and Denmark, nephew of the Greek king, and born on the Greek island of Corfu in 1921. He was not a British citizen, although his ancestry could be traced to multiple countries, including Germany and England. If anything, I've thought of myself as Scandinavian, particularly Danish, he said in a 1992 interview. Although we may think of him as a quintessential English gentleman, he only renounced his titles and became a British citizen, choosing the name Philip Mountbatten in preparation to marry then Princess Elizabeth. This excerpt is taken from the same Reader's Digest article. Royal author Hugo Vickers has even claimed, the Queen Mother, the scion of Scottish nobility, remained resolutely anti-German to the end. Yet, Philip's connection with Germany extended beyond his sisters. Philip's family, although part of the Greek royal family, were accustomed to speaking German as well as French behind closed doors due to their heritage. This excerpt is taken from the royal family website. Early life and education. Prince Philip adopted the family name of Mountbatten when he became a naturalised British subject and renounced his Greek and Danish royal title in 1947. So what you can see is that back in the 40s, when Prince Philip was seeing Elizabeth, there was a whole backdrop of xenophobia. Prince Philip was not going to be accepted into this family until he renounced his nationality. He was born in Corfu, and he said in 1992 that he considered himself Scandinavian, Danish. He didn't consider himself English. He was called foreigner, mixed heritage, all of these things, as you've heard. And it's not until he relinquished those parts of himself and became a naturalized British citizen. That's when he was accepted. So what I'm saying is that according, as far as British society is concerned and the powers that be, her sacrifice, Meghan's sacrifice wasn't great enough. She's an American. This is 2022 going into 2023. This is not the Middle Ages. This is not the 1940s or 50s. We're not in the 20th century anymore. Times have changed. The fact that the Queen was okay with her marrying Harry in the first place, that shows a level of progression. But the people that surrounded her and continue to be the voices in the background, they are evidently the ones that did not want this progression to take place. So when I said in my last video, it's history repeating itself, with Prince Philip, it was on a xenophobic level. With Meghan, it's on a racist level. Now, some commentators have argued that, and I know why they've done it, and I refer to a guest of Piers Morgan, a recent guest of Piers Morgan. I know why they've set him up to say what he said about Meghan. If you know what I'm talking about, you know I'm not going to, give this guy too much publicity. As someone of colour, for him to say what he said, I'm like, okay, you've been incentivized to say what you said, because again, British media, they want to hang on to this idea that what Meghan said was a lie. You cannot discount someone's experience. I've experienced racism. I don't, these are experiences that they're not going to traumatize me. But again, I'm not a public figure, and I'm not receiving that with the intensity that Meghan has received it. And she said she didn't experience that until she came to this country, because she's racially ambiguous. Like I said in my previous video, if anyone were to play her in a film, it's not going to be someone that looks like me. It's going to be someone that looks like the editor of The Sun, the current editor of The Sun, Victoria Newton. And that's a fact. But because of the fact that it was revealed that she had a black mother, that's when the whole thing started. So what I've realised is that even if Harry and Meghan say that the sky is blue, there will be a percentage of the population that will always maintain that the sky is green, and they can't be moved from that. And the reason is because the royal family, from what I've observed, this is the belief system, the established belief system. Just like someone believes in God or believes in something, like I believe in God wholeheartedly, 100%, and you can't move me from that position. That is the same level to which the majority of British society believe in the royal family. That is their belief system. That's their belief structure. And if anybody says anything against that, if they could chop off your head, they would. That's what the Tower of London is for. Okay? That's what the Tower of London is for. If they literally could chop off your head, because it's treason as far as they're concerned. The royal family, members of the royal family, they're fallible human beings. I cannot put my faith in fallible human beings. Why would I put my faith in people like that? But again, British society is hypocritical when it comes to these things. It's like they can't make up their minds. There's an element of schizophrenia, because it's like, if you don't do what we say, how we want you to behave, we're going to cancel you. We're going to destroy you. We're going to destroy you. I've said previously, it's not for me. There's this cancel culture. People want Jeremy Clarkson cancelled. I just wish he didn't say what he said. It's not for me to cancel anybody, because he needs to earn a living. How he's bounced back before. I'm sure he will do it again. When they sacked him from the BBC, he managed to bounce back. I'm sure he'll do it again. But he can't continue to make these. He can have his views. That's the thing. He can have his views. There's nothing to stop anyone from having certain views. But when you know that the climate dictates that you can't actually verbalize them or have them documented so that the whole world can see, because it goes against what, the general populace think, then there's a problem. You can't use your privilege anymore. Your privilege is diminishing. And I think that's the problem, because now the people that set up these structures, they are feeling marginalized. They're feeling in the minority, and they want to retain their power, because this is what the empire was built on. This power where they've gone in and invaded all these countries, established a British Empire, and people still don't understand that the majority of the world's population is non-white. It's only a small population of the world that is white, but they have the power. And that's not a racist thing, that's a statement of fact. But they don't teach these things in school. So you're led to believe that we're the minority. I'm not a minority. I'm not BAME. I already said that like a couple of years ago when BAME was the slogan for people, black and minority ethnic, because they couldn't be bothered to distinguish other races from black, so they just lump us all together. Don't do that. I'm a human being. I have my own identity. I am not BAME, as I had already told people. I'm not BAME, you know, but the dominant culture, they're feeling their power is being threatened. It's being taken away, and they don't like it. So they are now acting up, for want of a better phrase. So yeah, that's my conclusion. Don't know whether it made sense, but I thought I'd just come and document my thoughts again, because I thought this thing had died down. I didn't think I was going to be making another video about this, Harry and Meghan. Am I going to make another one? I don't know, because this was not the intention of this channel. I'm going to continue to do restaurant reviews. I'm going to continue to go out and about. I'm going to continue to talk about other things. There may even be quite a bit of travel next year, which I'm looking forward to, hopefully. Social commentary, I never thought I'd be doing that. But if I feel strongly about it, I am going to talk about it. Those are my observations. If you disagree, let me know constructively. If you agree, let me know constructively. What I will not tolerate is this attempt to gaslight me. You know, trying to make me look as though I'm mad. Yeah. I'm too much of an expert to fall for that foolishness, okay? I'm too much of an expert to fall for that foolishness. Go and gaslight Jeremy Clarkson's daughter or Carol Vorderman. Go and do that to them. Go and gaslight all the people that have condemned Jeremy Clarkson. Let's see what they say to you. So guys, I'm going to wrap up this video, but before I go, I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas. I know that there are those of you who will be experiencing your first Christmas without a loved one. I went through my first Christmas without my dad last year, and I really do empathise and sympathise with you. You know, try and get through the day. And just remember, spend the day remembering your loved one. And for those of you who are going through financial difficulties at this time, I really, really hope that 2023 is a more prosperous year for you. And I do mean that, because I've been there. I've been there, and it's not nice at all. You know, everyone's going on strike. There are more strikes to come. I don't know what's happening with this country. You know, but in all of that, let's stop tearing each other down. It's toxic, and it's horrible, and our kids are seeing these things, and let's not contribute to the evil that's going on in this world. There are some that are hell-bent on doing that. Don't be one of them. Please don't be one of them. You know, I'm going to leave you with that, and I'm going to wrap up this video. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. Taking time out of your evening or whenever you're watching this video, because I know you guys could be doing something else, but I really, really do appreciate it. I'd love you to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and comment below. Comment below. And I really look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you so much. Since recording this video and during editing, I listened to the 10 o'clock news, and they reported that the Sun newspaper, who published Jeremy Clarkson's article, have now issued an apology. And I've just gone online and seen
where it is on their website. So it reads, in last Saturday's Sun, Jeremy Clarkson wrote a comment article about the Duchess of Sussex. It provoked a strong response and led to a large number of complaints to the IPSO, the independent press regulator. In a tweet earlier this week, Jeremy said he had made a clumsy reference to a scene in Game of Thrones which had gone down badly with a great many people, and he was horrified to have caused so much hurt. He also said he will be more careful in future. Columnists' opinions are their own, but as a publisher, we realise that with free expression comes responsibility. We at The Sun regret the publication of this article, and we are sincerely sorry. The article has been removed from our website and archives. The Sun has a proud history of campaigning, from Help for Heroes to Chez M0i and Who Cares Wins, and over 50 years of working in partnership with charities. Our campaigns have helped change Britain for the better. Working with our readers, The Sun has helped to bring about new legislation on domestic abuse, provided beds in refuges, closed harmful loopholes in the law, and empowered survivors of abuse to come forward and seek help. We will continue to campaign for good causes on behalf of our readers in 2023.